Right, this is a video which is kind of inspired by another video I've just watched on YouTube, Jason's Yorkshire Tropicals, and he's just done a video on some palm trees he's having trouble with. And I'm in the hothouse because I've got the same two species that he featured in his video, and I've been overwintering them cold. I mean, so let's have a look at the species in question first. There's a bit of a mess in here, and I can see that all the windows and doors need a good clean, but I will have a good clear out and spring clean in here in due course. But so the palms in question were the knee cow palm and the Robellini, which were trying to be overwintered indoors, which is perfectly reasonable. It can be done, but you've got to take into account that some palms, we're not talking about cold hardy palms, because when we say cold hardy we mean, you know, they're good enough to go outside, whereas we're talking about intermediate palms that maybe sort of got a bit of cool tolerance but maybe not survive in an average UK winter without a lot of protection. So, you know, you want to keep them as a potted specimen. So we're talking about the Phoenix Robellini, a lot of the Phoenix species, you know, sort of on paper should survive, but probably won't, just due to the damp winters we have in the UK. So yeah, so we're talking about sort of half hardy, slightly tender palms. And for me, I mean, I've been growing palms for a few years now. I'm not saying I'm an expert, but I've certainly learnt a few lessons the hard way along the line. And what I would say, if it's got a bit of cool tolerance, keep it cool in winter, because what you don't want is to have a palm indoors and it's, you know, with the temperatures indoors trying to grow without the right light levels basically. And a lot of palms and most tropical plants in general, you know, they need good light levels. And you know, UK winter, yeah, the days are pulling out now, but in general we tend to get a very dark sort of overcast days and very short days. You know, you're lucky if you get 6-7 hours of daylight during the winter, and plants just don't do well under low light for short periods of light, rather than a, you know, full 12 to 14 hours daylight would be the full grow. And so what I'm just trying to get at is the fact that most palms and plants won't do well indoors or outdoors, you know, with very low light levels. So what we're looking at is, if they're not going to be grown due to the cold and low light, you know, they'll go dormant pretty much. So that is the best case scenario for a lot of palms, to let them just sit there and do nothing for 4 months over winter. Far better in my eyes to do that than it is to try and keep them growing over winter indoors. Even if you've got good artificial lights that can work. I mean, I'll probably do an update in my indoor grow tent at some point, which I've been meaning to do for a while. So really it's all or nothing. If you can have a palm indoors or a plant indoors over winter, what you need to do is have really a good light. So right next to a south facing window, or decent artificial grow light will work if you want to keep a plant growing. But I would say in the past, so I've had this, got a Robellini here, which is a double trunk, we can see that there, and I've had it indoors for a couple of winters, absolutely fine. But certain palms, you've got to, don't underestimate how much water they need, even if they're not really growing fully. I mean, the Robolini is quite a moisture-loving palm, and even in cooler conditions, you don't want to let it totally dry out. So we can see we've got some new growth trying to push out here, just due to the fact that, you know, the daylight is getting more and more, and they're starting to come back into growth now, and, you know, starting to warm up a bit. When we get a sunny day like this, that does warm up in this hothouse. But yeah, so I mean, it can be done indoors, but you really need to be vigilant on the water regime and humidity, because obviously indoors with central heating, it can be very dry. So, you know, maybe if you've got a good bathroom window, that'd be ideal, or kitchen where you've got a bit of humidity. But yeah, to specify the actual palms in question, so the Robolini here, I've had it indoors for a couple of years and had it outdoors, or overwintered undercover outdoors for a couple of winters, and it's always done better outdoors. And this is, I don't water it too much due to the fact that, you know, in this sort of environment you do get a bit of condensation build up and you get a few drips, so that tends to be enough just to keep it moist enough to keep it ticking over. But, you know, not just the Robolinis, I'm talking about, I've got a lot of date palms here, Reclinata, I've got some Sylvestris, Acolus. So, you know, a lot of these date palms, and I'd say the Livingstoners as well. So we've got a couple of different types of Livingstoner there, Chinensis and Decora, and these are all palms that will do perfectly well kept cool over winter. You know, shed, greenhouse, summer house, conservatory, kept cool, but just be vigilant, don't let them dry out. Yeah, so anyway, so the other palm was the Nico palm. So this is I bought this similar time as Jason, or you might have got it a little while after I got mine. So I've got one in the garden which is looking a little bit burnt up with the frosts, but still alive. But this one, you know, just kept frost free. So this is not got below 1 degree in here. So we've just got a heater in the background, so if it gets too low it kicks in. So it's not heated, but it's just kept above freezing, and this has been kept quite damp. And the Nicos are definitely one that you don't want to let dry out. They want to be consistently moist, even in the cooler months of the year. You don't want to let them dry out. I wouldn't say keep them sopping wet, but just a bit of dampness on the soil. I mean, there's just a little bit of dampness there, and they'll be absolutely fine. So since I've had this one, that's pushed out this new frond here, and we've got a new one coming up in the centre. So yeah, I mean, I'm not saying it's impossible to keep indoors, but you need to be specific on how and what requirements your palm is going to need. And like I say, with most palms, I mean, there's indoor palms, commonly grown indoor palms, for a reason, because they tolerate well the indoor environment. So we're talking about the Kentia palm, Eureka palm, Parla palm, and Rhaphis excelsis, stuff like that. You know, they're sold as indoor palms. They can come outside for summer, but they do fine over winter indoors, because they don't need, obviously they do better in certain conditions, but they don't need certain conditions. Whereas I think you need to know the palm you've got and the environment it comes from. So the Nico palm, for example, is New Zealand, and they, depending on what part of New Zealand you're talking about. I mean, I don't know the full range of these palms, but they do get cooler winters. They do get frosts, probably not as bad as we get them in the UK, but so they are cold tolerant, but they're not cold hardy. So again, this is not seen a frost, it's seen down to +1 degree C. So the cold's not bothering it, and to be fair, that's actually still been pushing that frond, because these are slow growing palms anyway, but that's been pushing that frond throughout the winter, so they don't totally shut down. So you're not got nothing to gain by, oh, I'll try and overwinter indoors and we'll try and get a bit more extra growth out of it, because what's going to happen there is you're going to get distorted growth because conditions, light level, humidity's not right, and you won't get good growth on them. There's no point. Far better just to keep them cool and dormant through the winter. I mean, like I say, I can't go into every specific species of palm. I mean, I've grown a lot of palms. I grow a lot of tropical palms, and we're talking like the Christmas palms and coconut palms. They can be tricky, but if you know their requirements, you know, that takes the guesswork out. But if you know what they need and you can provide it, they're not that hard. So yeah, I mean, it's all a learning curve. Like I say, I'm no expert, but what I do have is experience over the last few years growing a lot of different types of palms. I know what sort of palms you can get away with keeping cool, and what palms you need to keep growing over winter. And most palms, I mean, I do grow some true tropicals, but in general I do grow most palms that are got a little bit of cold tolerance, so I can, when they get a certain size that's going to be impractical to keep indoors over winter, so I can, as they get bigger, keep them in a cooler environment for the winter period. Right, so I probably will do a full update in the hothouse at some point, but like I say, it's a bit of a mess here, and I'm in the middle of trying to sort some stuff out, and as spring kicks in, I can move a lot of stuff outside and get a lot of stuff back in here, sort of propagation benches, and get some plants on the go. We'll have a quick look at the some of the seeds I germinated last year. So this time last year I'd done some sable minor, which are there, and some sable palmetto, which are there. So they've again just been kept sort of cool in here, and no growth over winter obviously, but they're still looking absolutely fine, no problem. And we've got a big tray of the Washingtonia foliifera here, which again were grown from seed. I've got 20 plus of these, and some of the leaves are brown, some of the older ones, but most of the center leaves are still good, and they'll push back into full growth once it warms up. I've got a couple on the windowsill there as well, so they're a year old from seed, or just under a year old, and they're starting to get a sort of palmate division in the leaves there. So yeah, over the next month things should start picking up and looking a bit healthy again. But anyway, so we've gone off track again, so I hope that helps out anyone who is overwintering palms or tropical plants in general. Just do a bit of research, know the conditions that this plant's going to need, and if you can't provide them, then you're better off sort of keeping a plant dormant over winter rather than trying to keep it grown and alive, because it can take a bit of a investment in setting up stuff and buying, you know, grow lights and fans or whatever. Right, so we'll leave it there. Thanks for watching, and I do hope that that's helped some of you out. And you know, feel free to leave any comments if you've had any experience with some of these palms and you've got a different opinion, or some palms that it's supposed to be tricky and you've overwintered successfully, you know, especially like coconut palms and stuff. I mean, I've overwintered them before and I've killed some, I've managed to keep some alive, and yeah, it's all part of the fun and games of it. Right, let's leave it there. Thanks for watching.